Welcome back to America's Retirement Headquarters, home of the Retirement Guys Formula and America's Medicare Associates with Nolan Baker and Scott Kerscher. 419-794-3030 is the phone number. If you have questions about things we talked about this week on the show, just questions about your retirement in general, that is the phone number, 419-794-3030. The website, arhq.com. Don't forget, if you missed the first half of the show, or you just want to catch up on previous editions of the show, available via podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, on YouTube, wherever you consume your media. Just search for America's Retirement Headquarters. It's there for you to check out at your leisure. Now, one of the reasons to bring a retirement planner into your life is to avoid a big mistake. This is common with tax and estate planning. Barron's brought up a story of a man who had $3 million in a brokerage account and another $3 million in an IRA. He gave the daughter the IRA and the Salvation Army the brokerage account. That left the daughter with a huge tax bill. So let's talk about this, take a deeper dive. Where did this man go wrong?
Well, I mean, that's just one example of a tax and estate planning mistake that, could be avoided. It's really nice that he wanted to leave some money to charitable causes. And of course, I think children or spouses are always important as well. But, when you're dealing with estate planning, you only get one shot at getting it right. And, the first thing I would say is, we're not attorneys. I think it's important that you work with an attorney that really focuses and specializes in estate planning. Somebody that can help you navigate that environment that's out there. I had a lady who had recently come in, and one of the questions that we go through in that first appointment is talking about, are your estate plans up to date? And she had mentioned that she had a trust established. She had got a trust through one of the legal plans that she had. It was a benefit that was offered through her work, which is a great benefit that they have. And when we were looking at it, I was looking at her financial statements, and I noticed that a lot of her financial statements were, either titled in her name or titled in her and her spouse's name. And usually when you have a trust, most of those assets will say like trustee after your name, which would indicate that those assets are in trust. The same would be true when you look up your house. Here in Lucas County, you could go onto the county reporter's website, Lucas County Aries, and you could look at what the title of your house is. So what happened in that situation is somebody had spent the time, effort, and energy to get a little bit more of an advanced estate plan. They had a trust, but by not funding the trust, by not putting the assets into the trust, they may not be able to take advantage of the full benefit of really what that trust had to offer. It's no different than in the situation like what we heard during the open there. The gentleman had left his daughter his IRA and the Salvation Army, the brokerage account. When we go through the retirement team action plan, we look at taxes, estate planning, asset protection, and money management. And that can be an area that would have jumped out, hopefully, and somebody would have been able to catch that before something happens, because after somebody passes away, you can't change what the beneficiary designation form has to say. Non-retirement accounts, in this case, the brokerage account, a lot of those investments get what is called a stepped-up basis at death, meaning that traditionally taxes are forgiven. So had the daughter got the brokerage account, the taxes would have been forgiven in a stepped-up basis. And in this situation, the Salvation Army and or a charity, traditionally does not pay taxes when they receive a retirement account, in this example, an IRA. So it would have been better off to kind of flip-flop those numbers and or look at how to have a properly named beneficiary. So what Scott and I did is years ago, we put together a lot of our years of experience of working with people, and we created what I call the Ultimate Estate Planning Checklist. It's one of those tools that's part of that retirement team action plan where we go through looking at making sure that we cross the T's, dotted the I's. Things like, do you have the right legal plans in place? There's, quite frankly, a lot of people that still don't even have a will or a power of attorney or even a trust. And, some assets are going to go through those type of accounts and other assets are not. So when you have something like a life insurance, when you have an annuity, when you have a 401k, a lot of those type of accounts will have a named beneficiary, and it's going to go to who you put on that beneficiary designation, not necessarily through your will or trust. And in fact, a lot of people don't want their financial assets to go through their will because that means that some of those assets could become probatable. And probate is good. It's a process ultimately to get assets from your name to your beneficiary's name. But the drawback with it is it's a public process, so people can look up and read and get personal information. Uh, Probate is a slow process. It takes time when you're figuring scheduling with courts and your schedule, and it can be a timely, costly process. And the cost comes into it because the probate courts are going to charge money based upon, the amount of assets that they probate, as well as the attorney that's involved with it. So taking these steps now to get them in place, I think is really good. Just like the lady who had come into the office the other day, I bet in her mind she thought, hey, I had it all taken care of. I got my work employer plan, had offered me this benefit. I took advantage of it and got these documents. But, still in my professional opinion, she needs to go back and talk to the attorney and or work with a financial professional to make sure that everything has properly named beneficiaries and the accounts are put together in the correct place, even all the way down to getting your final arrangements put together. I do think it's a good idea for people to have things like prepaid funeral arrangements.
Oh, absolutely. I unfortunately, I experienced a loss of my mother-in-law. She was only 70 years old, but one of the things that I'll tell you is it's one thing to have the estate plan checklist put in place. It's another thing to let the family know, or your executor, or whatever person, whether it's your attorney or whoever it may be, let them know exactly that you've had this stuff put in place. One thing that we discovered was we really had no idea that my father-in-law and mother-in-law actually had some things put in place. We didn't know anything about those. None of the kids in the family did. So it's one thing to have that put in place, but make sure that your executor is aware of the plan that you've got put in place and how you want your final days to what you want them to look like. It's very, very important to let people know exactly what's going on. But you're right, Nolan. Not doing anything at all is not a way to have a plan put in place.
Yeah, always good to double check it. The way to double check it is to get a copy of that ultimate estate planning checklist. When you call up and request that, we'll have you come in the office. We'll go through it together, and we'll make sure that you cross the T's and dot the I's, because those tax and estate planning beneficiary mistakes can absolutely be costly, and something that we certainly won't want you to go through. If you want to leave money either to a charity or a family, making sure your least favorite relative, Uncle Sam, is not part of that plan is what we're trying to get to.
Definitely, when it comes to estate planning and taxation, it is very much a case where what you don't know can hurt. Well, not you necessarily, but your beneficiary is the recipient. So, as they said, measure twice, cut once, make sure all the T's are crossed, all the I's dotted. The ultimate estate planning checklist available to you. All you have to do is reach out, give a call, 419-794-3030, or visit them on the website, and that is arhq.com.